Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 11 of my How to Code PHP tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to create automatically updating multiple drop-down boxes. Go completely through everything that goes into it. Sounds kind of confusing, but it's really not, and it's actually quite useful. Here I'll show you the code behind a semi-complicated task in which we feed new options into a drop-down box based off the selection made in another drop-down box. You can see what I'm talking about in the sample images to your right. First, I'll use some JavaScript scripts to reload the form whenever the visitor changes the values of the drop-down box. The function reload and reload3 are called when the user changes the value of the drop-down in the form below. These functions send the visitor to the index.php page with the new values for the drop-down boxes attached to the URL. If this doesn't make sense, you should definitely look into my JavaScript scripting tutorial. Here's the PHP code that will pull new drop-down box information from the database. Here I'm creating the options for the first drop-down box by making a query. If you check out my SQL statements tutorial, this should all make perfect sense. That's all the coding you have to perform to populate the first drop-down. Now I'll make the second drop-down based off the option chosen in the first drop-down. Here we're checking that a value has been set for the first drop-down box. We create an SQL query that returns a manufacturer ID and manufacturer name where the ID numbers match, and the part ID is equal to the value the visitor chose in the first dropdown. We then alphabetically order these results. If no result is set for the first dropdown box, we populate the second dropdown with every manufacturer in the database. This is all the code needed for the second dropdown box. Here we perform very similar actions with the third drop-down box. We're performing a query that will return the model numbers when the manufacturer ID matches whatever value is in the variable named cat3, and the model numbers match the value of variable named cat. Now we need some PHP code to generate the form that contains all of our drop-downs. This code creates a drop-down that will reload the page each time a drop-down is changed. This is done with some help from the onChange event handler. The while loop will loop through all the query data that is returned with some help from the MySQL fetch array function. The MySQL fetch array function fetches a row of data at a time from the array created from the query above. The rest of the code prints out the rest of the HTML code for the drop-down box. And the rest of the code creates the next two drop-down boxes and is nearly identical to the above. And here you see all of the code that would go into creating the rest of the form. Now I'd like to talk for a second about future PHP scripts. PHP is a very powerful language, and I wouldn't have taken so much time to record 11 tutorials if I didn't think so. I plan on showing you additional PHP tutorials in the future, but I'd just like to ask, is there anything you specifically would love for me to cover? Or if you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. Just so you know, I plan on creating additional tutorials on web spiders, and currently I'm working on an automated website news aggregator. If you don't know what that is, leave a comment below. Till next time.